Government policies are excellent, but implementation on ground is a big problem. If I talk about the realization of the delayed payments from the customers, the MSME Act 2006 says that if any payment is delayed beyond 45 days, then it has to have an interest burden of 3 times the bank interest. For this purpose, MSME FCs have been opened, facility councils have been opened throughout the country in practically every state. Now, MSME FC, they help the MSMEs to realize their payments to some extent. There is no time limit for realizing the payment, that is number one, because the Act does not specify the time limit for realizing the payment. Now, what happens is after a certain stage, the MSMEs are supposed to go to the civil court for realizing the payment. It is an open-ended game. Once we go to the civil court, number one, it is very costly. Number two, there is no time limit for realizing the payments. For example, 90 days is the time between when the MSME FC calls seller and purchaser. They have to sort out the issue across the table within 90 days. If it is not settled, then they refer the matter to the arbitrator. Arbitrator also takes 90 days. That is the time limit, but sometimes it goes beyond 90 days. It could go up to 180 days. If the case is not settled, and let's assume that the arbitrator has given a decision in favor of the MSME and against the purchaser, for realizing the payment, if the purchaser decides not to pay to MSME, then the only alternative is that with the award of the arbitrator, we have to approach the civil court. And once the matter goes to the civil court, then there is no time limit for getting this payment. Now, the Act of 2006 has to be amended because the situation has changed quite a lot from 2006 till 2022. So, that is one aspect which I would like to touch upon, that this Act has to be amended, and we have from PhD chamber sent certain suggestions to the government for making necessary changes in the Act. One of them is that if the purchaser is not willing to pay and is not coming on the negotiating table, then MSME FC should have the powers to block the GST account or the bank account of the purchaser till he settles the issue. Now, this small thing, if it can be done, then I think this will be a very big boon for the MSMEs, because more than getting the bank loan, if the working capital realization issue from the customers is taken care, then probably bank loan may not be required at all, which is very costly to afford nowadays. The one aspect which I would like to touch upon is when they say that 3 times the bank interest the purchaser has to pay, it is only the repo rate. Repo rate earlier, about a year back, was about 4%. So, even if the purchaser has to pay 12% to the MSME, he is very happy because he is getting an unsecured loan from the purchaser at 12%. And ultimately, when he settles, the issue is settled across the table, and it is only negotiation, and the interest is either waived off or is partly paid. So, that is one aspect. It has not come to the practical use as of now. Banks are always looking at your balance sheet, and unless the balance sheet is healthy, the credit from the bank is very difficult to get. Although the government has introduced certain policies on the GST deposit basis or the performance of the MSME unit, but in practical shape, it has not yet been implemented, and banks put various ifs and buts for giving loan to the MSMEs. It's not an easy job. See, government policies are excellent, and if the government officials work as a team with the industry, then there is a lot of benefit by the government policies, as everything has gone into digitization and paperwork has been reduced quite a lot. But in practical shape, if we look at the MSME industries, there are roadblocks, speed breakers which are put every now and then by any of the state government on any of the policies. For example, they have put a blanket ban on the use of generators due to pollution for 3 months. Now, if the industry is not getting the proper power, which is the responsibility of the state government, and if it is not allowed to use the generator also, where would the industry go? What they will do? So, if 3 months we have to block our production or part of the production, then it is a big burden. Now, instead of issuing the blanket ban, they should issue the ban on specific units or specific purpose which are creating the pollution. For example, in the real estate industry, after the building comes up from the plinth level or from the basement, there is no item which is causing pollution for the industry. If one real estate industry is closed, it affects 500 MSMEs. So, we should see the reason what is causing the pollution, not to issue the blanket ban on all the activities. For example, if interior work has to be done, or electrical pipes have to be laid, or firefighting pipes are being laid, they don't cause any pollution. So why stop those activities? Stop the activity which creates the pollution. And let me tell you, even putting a ban on the generators do not cause pollution, because the engine used in the generator is the same as used in the buses and trucks. The diesel used in the generator is the same as is used in the buses and trucks. So if buses and trucks are allowed to run on the road, and there are pollution checking centers on the petrol pumps, similarly mobile checking centers can be deputed in the industries to check pollution level of the generator, and whichever generator is causing pollution, that should be banned, not all generators. So that will give a big relief to the industry, and let's create a way how the industry can serve, how they can survive, how they can work, instead of creating a roadblock.